Good morning, people. Welcome to another episode of the Michael Lab Show. Hey, Taylor. You're fine. Huh? You're okay. Already getting interrupted early in the podcast by an intruder. Just make sure you close the door, please. Thank you. You like your notes? Your notes are so cute. Okay. I'll see you soon. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the podcast with me. I don't want to say my first name. It's weird to say, like, if I always introduce my podcast as, which I do, the Michael Lab Show, it feels a little strange, right? It feels a little selfish almost. But I guess that's what it's called. But I mean, you don't like, when I started the podcast, I was trying to think of a name. I was trying to think, how should I market it, or how should I brand it? Should I go with a name that isn't my name? Like Theo Vaughn has This Past Weekend. Brendan Schaub and Brian Callen have The Fighter and the Kid. And then there's other, like Mark Norman and I think Joe List, two comedians have, what's it called? Tuesday Stories or something like that. I'm not as creative as them. I need to stop playing with my mic. I play with this arm so much the entire time. But I didn't want to pigeonhole myself. Pigeonhole, not pigeonholed. It might be pigeonhole. Nikola Tesla, dude. He has a famous quote. He was a genius, right? Like when people are actual geniuses, such as Nikola Tesla or Elon Musk or Alan Turing, anybody who is Albert Einstein, these people who are just functioning in a different wavelength, like the way that we look at computers, these people probably look at us like the way I look at a computer, like the way a computer functions is extraordinary, and I just can't compete on it, obviously. But they probably look at us like we are the humans and they are the computers, which is crazy because, I mean, it's just, there's a certain level of genius where it's a different level. Like their minds compute just so slowly. Like I feel like I'm a old school like Mustang, like a car that has an engine but just is rough and it drives aggressively and it's not smooth or anything. And I feel like some of these minds out there, their minds just function so smoothly. Like they can just go on for days, just drive on for days, and they function at such a high level, and it makes me feel stupid as hell, which I like feeling stupid. But about doves, like this Nikola Tesla, he was a guy, I think he invented AC current or is DC current. I forget which one. But whichever one it was, he basically invented electricity. And he has this quote, I can actually look it up right here, about a dove and how much he loved this dove. Nikola Tesla. I wonder if Elon Musk gives money to the Tesla family for using the name Tesla. About the bird. Dove. The dove? I think it's a dove. Here we go. It stole his heart as he wrote about her. I love that pigeon as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's a much deeper conversation to have. It's kind of comical at surface level when you hear things like that. When you hear poets speak in a way that is so artistical and so strange and so out there. Hemingway, Homer, Shakespeare, the greatest writers that this world has ever seen. I would even argue philosophers. In my eyes, I love philosophers such as, I'm big in like the nihilistic and existentialism philosophers, Nietzsche, Camus, Jung. Obviously, I enjoy them. Most likely it's probably because my ignorance towards other philosophies. I'm not that well versed on them. I've only ever read nihilism and existentialism, which I think is common for teenagers, especially teenage boys. It's common for them, aka me, to read about nihilism philosophy. And I think the main reason why is because I don't know the differences scientifically between men and women, but as a man myself, I feel like as I grew up, the way that I view the world was much more aggressive than my female counterparts, my female friends, or just the females I met in general. There's a much more combative way that men take on the world, in a way that's so aggressive that if there is a lack of success at the end of the tunnel, it tends to lead to a point of anger, and that anger may eventually go down an avenue of disgust and then resentment against the people or against the school or against your parents or against whatever the establishment was that you were trying to defeat. A little segment of it, you're trying to defeat it just a little bit. And that can lead to you believing that the world is against you and therefore there is no meaning in this world. Because sometimes things just seem so big and so out there that instead of facing them and trying to figure out what they are and deconstructing them to like their smallest base matter, it's much easier to just say, fuck it. It is going after me. It is attacking me. Therefore, I don't need to worry about it. And I believe that's kind of what like the idea of nihilism comes from. I speak about it all the time, but I think it's something that it's a growth process of men. And more than that, I think understanding it as a female, understanding that men have this tendency to look at the world like that, in this nihilistic viewpoint, that nothing else matters, therefore I don't matter. Understanding that if you're in a relationship, I think is super important. I think it can bring the relationship together. In the same way for men, understanding females and understanding the emotions that tend to come with a female throughout the month, during the week, the 2 weeks around their period, where hormonally things are just different, right? They're on a different playing field. There's a sense of understanding people that don't look like you that is missing from this discourse that we're currently living in. I saw it today. As I'm recording this, I didn't really want to talk about this, but this is kind of where the avenue is taking me. I saw today on Twitter and Instagram that there was Blackout Today 2020. And the idea of this, at least as far as I know, it's only 9 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, July 7th, and this podcast will be out July 9th. So I don't really know too much what will happen, but from just looking at it as of right now, the idea is to only support African American owned businesses. And I think that's very important when you look at the dynamic of this. Hence, you cannot support Apple, you cannot support Verizon, you cannot support AT&T, you cannot support, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Amazon, Google. There's many things that are confusing about this idea of just not spending your money. Well, the first, and I understand the idea of it, to put money back into the pockets of Black Americans. And I am 100% for that. I agree with that 100%. But there is something that is slightly conflicting with this idea, with this movement. I was going to say philosophy, but it's not a philosophy. I think with this day of observation, it comes in light of elections. It comes in light of primaries, specifically Delaware and New Jersey. The idea of removing Donald Trump from office and putting Joe Biden in office. Joe Biden is not a qualified presidential candidate by any means. I do think he has great potential abilities, but I don't know if he has the ability to run a country. On the other end of the spectrum, you have Donald Trump, which he has done what he's done. He's done well for the economy. He's done a good job for jobs. He's done a good thing for a lot of people. But what he doesn't do a good thing at is treating humans like humans. He's a piece of shit when it comes to that. And he causes a divide, which is so obvious in the country. And if people refuse to agree with that, then I don't know what world they're living on. At the same time, I would love to listen. But anyways, there's a hatred for Donald Trump more than there is a love for Biden. And that, my friends, is not a healthy discourse. That is not a good situation. When you are voting for a candidate, not because you support the candidate, but because you're anti the other candidate, that is a disaster. That is a recipe for a disaster. Because what's going to happen is Donald Trump will win this election. He will win it not by a little bit, but by a landslide. And when that happens, there's going to be more and more of a divide. And I'm not saying there should be. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be. I'm not saying that there should or should not be. But what I'm saying is it is scary to think that right now we're living in a world where the love for a candidate is not there, but the hatred for the other candidate is more powerful than anything else. But anyways, like I was saying, with this Black Today 2020 or Blackout Today 2020, I love the idea of it. I love the basis of it. I love the concept that we will put money back in the pockets of African Americans, specifically the owners of certain businesses. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful concept. It's a concept that should be enriched. That's a concept that should continue every day. But there's a big gap, I think, that's missing upon just taking on that challenge. And the gap that you're missing is every time you use a cell phone, every time you use a platform to promote this message, you are actually supporting a white business. You're putting the message out on Twitter. You're putting the message out on Instagram, on Snapchat, wherever you're doing it. So there's a conflicting that's a conflicting ideal right there, right off the bat. In addition to that, by you not supporting white-owned businesses, you're hurting these businesses in the long run. One day of zero revenue, which is not going to happen, but even a 20% hit against a business for one day will have long-term consequences in the future. Consequences that people will be removed from their job, and those people removed from their job will most likely be, well, not most likely, not like because it has to be, but because the number game. Because when people get removed from their jobs, it's all races, it's minorities in the majority. It's a thing where I understand the concept, and I support it, and I think it's a beautiful thing. But I think the mechanism of doing it is scary. What else? Fuck, I was talking about doves, right? I think I was talking about birds. But yeah, no. So geniuses like Nikola Tesla and these brilliant men and women that walk this world, they just have this escape mechanism from reality. Like they have this ability to look at the world as it's important, it's beautiful, but they can disconnect from the bullshit that goes on. Like the idea that this man has a quote saying he fell in love with a dove, he's a crazy person, right? But the reason why he was Nikola Tesla and the reason why he was so successful is because he could just disconnect from the world. I wanted to talk about that. I did want to talk about alcoholism. I want to actually touch on responsibility. Before we get in that, I just want to go back to what I was saying about using the name. It's a question I don't get all the time, but I've gotten like once or twice within the past month. And it's the idea that my podcast is called The Michael Lab Show. And the reason for this is quite simple. When I was developing a podcast, I didn't have another name. I didn't think of another name. I didn't have a concept for another name. On top of that, I didn't know what I was going to talk about on the podcast. Therefore, if I named it something else and I got bored of talking about whatever that name lended, it's whatever the subject, if the name was, let's just say sports related, Michael's Fantasy Football Picks or Michael's World of Sports or something like that. Well, I get bored with sports quickly. I get super bored with sports very quickly all the time. And I didn't want to pigeonhole myself to a place where I can't speak upon anything else. And I like the idea of just using my name for marketing reasons, because if you just put my name in Google, the podcast comes up. If you just put it on Instagram, the podcast comes up. And I think and my name is unique. I don't think there's a lot of Michael Labs out there. So it was kind of used in that sense. And when you hear it, you don't really know what I'm going to talk about, which I think from a lot of people's viewpoints, which I would say the majority, and I would also agree with most of the people, is from that viewpoint, you are hurting your base of listeners. You're kind of putting yourself into, there's no niche. And when you're in a niche, if you can dominate that niche area, subject matter, that landscape, if it's like bird watching, if you had the best bird watching podcast, you will get all the podcast listeners in the bird watching community. But my fear was that I would get bored with bird watching or oceans or whatever the concept was. I was going to get bored with it, and I didn't want to take that risk. So by allowing myself just to use my name as my podcast, it allowed me to bypass all of that and just kind of have a platform where I could speak about whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, as long as YouTube or Apple or Spotify does not take me down for whatever they think, hate speech or spreading false narratives and whatnot. Black Plague, apparently there's a case in, I think it was Africa, or no, maybe China. I think it was China, which the bubonic plague, like that's the idea that could take over the world, and that's like a real disease. Like, I mean, I'm not saying, there we go. That's how you get your ad revenue taken away. I'm not saying coronavirus isn't a real infection. Like, it has killed 500,000 plus people. But what I am saying is that the bubonic plague would look at the virus and laugh at it and piss on it. Like, it would just wipe us out. Saw that Novavax just got a huge contract from the government, which is so ironic. So this past semester, I had 2 essays. One of them was about a AI company, or a company using AI to benefit its operation, whether revenue, to better its product and or service. And at the time I was really intrigued with the fitness world, because I know that the fitness world is going to be one of the sectors where it benefits the most from technology. And at the time there was not Paladine. What's the name? Peloton. And they were obviously the biking company that uses like the TV, and you have a trainer, and you have competitions. Anyways, it's a really nice platform for bikers or for people who need to exercise. And in addition to that, sorry about that, there was another company called Mirror. And the idea of Mirror, and I might have mentioned this before on the podcast, the idea of Mirror was it is a smartphone, but in a mirror for exercising. So it keeps track of your age, your weight, your height, your heart rate. It's got a personal trainer on the mirror, like in the corner, I think, while it shows your reflection, and it teaches you how to do the certain movements. But it saves the data, and it downloads it, and it knows when you're in front of the mirror, and it applies workouts for you, depending on how all your biomarkers are coming in that day. And it's really cool because since there's a mirror, you can see yourself doing it. And I think like there's an instructor doing it with you, and there might even be classes, like a collection of people. I'm not too sure. I never actually used the product because it was so expensive, but I did do a research project on it. And at the end of the project, I was like, I will guarantee this company will get bought out within the next 2 years. Blah, 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 blah. I'm looking at my Robinhood. I'm going over it's like 9:15. And like last week, I'm like, what am I going to, because I've really been getting into the stock market lately, and I've been doing decently, but obviously the stock market's been doing super well across the board. And I do know, I'm not arrogant to this, I understand that when people first get in stocks, they do well because they get into stocks because they're hearing about it, and you only hear about it if it's doing well for everybody. So every time people get into stocks, it's they have a good experience the first time because everybody is doing well. Therefore, your first month or so, you're going to make money. And I do know the idea of being successful on the stock market is never selling, just keeping your money in and reinvesting it over and over and over again and getting that compound interest. But anyways, I was sitting there. Got a little bit of water, not much. That's like 3-week-old water. Dude, my stomach is killing me. I had a mac and cheese egg white burrito this morning after my 4.5 mile run, 4.3 miles. Which is decent for me. I've been weighing in at like between 197 to 200 lately, so I kind of been stalling out, but I'm gonna continue the diet today. I want to get down to like 180, and I want to run a marathon so bad. I want to see how my body reacts at 185. I think it will do fine. I just really want to push myself and see what I can produce at that weight. Right now I'm weighing about 197. When I woke up this morning, 198, and I feel good. I feel light. My knees are fine. I don't have any joint pain. Ever since I got these Hoka shoes, I think they're called Brooks. Oh no, Brooks is a different company. I think they're called Hoka. These shoes are incredible. The cushion is beautiful, and I got these shorts, and I've mentioned it before. I showed you guys my legs on my last podcast, but I only wear these specific shorts, and these shorts have changed the game of running for me. Like, completely changed the game. I feel like I'm running. I started running at like 210, and I dropped 12 to 15 pounds since then. And it makes the world of a difference. Like, when people say they aren't good at running, 90% of the time they're fat, they're overweight. And that obviously is going to affect the way you run. But my stomach has been killing. I haven't taken a shit yet. I still got to take a shit. But yeah, I'm doing this project, and I kind of made a prediction at the end. I was like, I guarantee this company is going to get bought out within the next 2 years. And I'm looking at my like the news for the day, and it says Lululemon is going to buy out Mirror. Let me double check that. I don't want to be sending that type of information out there, just completely lying to you guys. Not Cure, Mirror. Dummy. Yeah, so they bought Mirror out for $500 million, which I just thought was fascinating. And then, which was a great acquisition for Lululemon. Lululemon is such a rich company. I never realized how rich they are. I mean, they've been around for so long. Because they only became popular when, like, I think they made wearing, because I don't know if you guys remember, but like 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. I think I was 13. It was probably middle school when I started noticing like yoga pants, obviously. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So probably about 10 to 15 years ago, or, more like 12 plus years ago, it seemed like nobody was wearing yoga pants or leggings. And I'm trying to think, what did girls wear before that? Like, did they just wear sweatpants and shorts and jeans? But Lululemon they created that market. Like, they are the reason why I believe that yoga pants and leggings are so popular these days. But I was just so shocked. Anyways, I was just so shocked that but seriously, what did girls wear before? What did I wear before I found these shorts? I used to wear underwear. I haven't worn underwear in like 2 weeks. Like, I only wear these shorts. I have 4 pairs of these shorts. I wear them. So I will wear them. So let's say I wake up in the morning. I put on a pair and I run with them. And then I come back from the run. I'll wait a few hours, and then I work out before work. So I work out around 4 o'clock or like 3 o'clock, depends what time I go into work at. If I work out at 3, that means I work at 4. If I work out at 4, it means I work at 5. So I will wear, it's disgusting, I know, but I won't shower all day. I will go work out on the weights with the same shorts I wore when I was running. And then I will shower right after I work out with the weights, or after I do my free weights and whatnot. And then I'll shower after I work out, and then I'll put on new shorts in my work outfit, and then I'll get off work at like 10, go home, I'll take off my shorts, I'll put the old ones that I wore running into the dirty laundry, I'll take the ones that I wore at work, and I'll put them on my bed, and then I wake up and I wear the same shorts to go running in again. So I can get with 2 pairs of shorts, I can get 2 whole days, I guess, 2.5 days. So with 4 shorts, I can get like a week, like 4 or 5 days. And then I just clean them. So I have 4 pairs of shorts, the same exact brand. It's the 5-inch seam New Balance running shorts. And I'm telling you, dude, they're like $28, I think, on Amazon. And I buy them like crazy. I bought 4 pairs. I'm probably going to buy 2 more pairs. But they change the game, dude. I can't imagine myself wearing anything else. I really can't, because they just are so comfortable. They're the best. But anyways, yeah. So I guess you could say I predicted that acquisition, which I don't think was a big, bold prediction, because they were such a good company, and like Forbes released a article, I think it was Forbes, on them, about the owner, how she created like $1 billion industry. And then Taylor was telling me that Novavax, which is a pharmaceutical company, that they are known for, like, I think it's Tamiflu or something. I think it's Tamiflu, and one other medicine that they provide clinical trials. I don't think they produce pharmaceuticals, but they provide the clinical trials. So if I have a medication that I want to put into a clinical trial, they will take care of all that. They will provide the people. They will do all the whatever, all the lawyer stuff, all that bullshit to get the product into a clinical trial, pass it by the FDA or whoever, and then boom, shove it out to the people. But we had to do a project on Maryland-based companies, and this company, I don't think I'll be able to make 40 minutes on this podcast because I have to shit so bad. This company is based out of Gaithersburg, Maryland, so I decided to do that company, and it was supposed to be a group project at the time. Everything fell apart with the whole COVID thing, so we stayed online at our house, and it became an individual project, and it became a presentation to just typing it up. But I got excited about Novavax because they're a publicly traded company, and I like that. Obviously, they're based out of Maryland. But at the end of the paper, we kind of had to predict, what is the future like for this company? What do you think? And the reason why I picked them, you didn't have to pick a pharmaceutical Maryland-based company. You could have picked anything. Obviously, a lot of people picked like Lockheed Martin because they're a Maryland-based company. Discovery Channel. The reason why I picked them is because I loved what they were about, and I also like that they're a publicly traded company. And I made a prediction that they're going to get a huge, they're going to be the reason why COVID goes away. And the reason why I said that was because Bill Gates, him and his wife, through the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, which is such a funny name. Like, you know you're rich when the name of your foundation is just your name. Like, holy shit, you know you got some money. When they invested like $600 million into the company. And then she told me that they just got like a $450 million grant from the government to proceed with more research for their drug that they think may help with coronavirus, cure it, or who really knows how they're going to go about that. But I just thought that was fascinating that there's 2 things I didn't really predict, but I kind of hit the nail on the head with that. Yeah, so podcast, blah, blah, blah. What else do I have here? Is it offensive for a straight guy to prescribe a gay voice? Yeah, fuck. I always write down everything. Like, before I go to bed, I like, you know, as you're going to bed, chemicals in your brain are firing away. As your body starts shutting down, it's like a final push of dopamine and everything in your brain. Melatonin's rushing to your head, so you have these just crazy thoughts that just take over your head like a tsunami hitting the beach of Hawaii or the beach of Japan. And so I always get like my best, in quotations, maybe my most offensive, but I usually get like my most aggressive thoughts like right before I go to bed. And that's why people say, like, you always see memes and stuff of tweets of people saying, almost went to bed, but crazy thoughts and some shit like that. And it's like, oh, you're up for the next hours thinking about blah, 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 blah. Well, there's actually biology behind that. Your brain literally is flushed with melatonin and other neurotransmitters and chemicals that make your brain think more and more and more. And melatonin is what shuts that down. But I have a note section on my phone where I just write down any random idea that comes to my head for podcast topics. And let me just read off my last 8, maybe 7. and I've already covered a lot of these. The first one, when people ask me, how do you do the podcast? Well, this is kind of how we do it. Here's like 10. First one, dieting advice. I talked about that. How we've lost our minds. I might have talked about that. Stop yelling and canceling. Start teaching, educating. Rich get richer. Hail on Wednesday, because it was Hail on Wednesday, and I thought it was super cool to talk about. Didn't really talk about it too much though. What's in your food? And I thought that was fascinating. I forget. I think my dad said. Somebody said something where. I forget where it was. We were talking with friends. It was in the kitchen. I overheard my dad, or maybe it was one of my friend's girlfriends, say something that was like extremely fascinating. It was, now that the human, we've been living so long on processed foods, it literally takes our bodies like an extra 10 years to disintegrate after we're buried, which is just crazy because all the chemicals and hormones that we put into our food that evidently end up in our bodies. So when we die, it takes us forever to like, go away. Which I thought that was fascinating. And I think that's maybe why I put that here, or I put it here because I was pissed off about the way we deal with coronavirus and how we don't teach people about actually taking care of your health, which will be a primary defense mechanism for the coronavirus. If you just don't treat your body like shit and you actually take care of your body and love your body and care for your body, exercise your body, and you weight train your body and eat your body, like you eat food for your body that's actually good for your body, how that could actually help with coronavirus, which is, whoa, mind-blowing, right? And then I have like title options, stocks talks, Bill Clinton is done, Tesla on top. Human conditioning was another topic. I might talk about that next podcast. Make fun of microaggressions. Like, so I write these things down. It comes off a little aggressive, right? But I do think it's funny because it's funny, right? Because it's maybe not funny, but the irony is there. Like, you got to admit, at least the irony is there. Like, by you making fun of a microaggression, that's a microaggression towards a microaggression. So if I like, what's a microaggression? Like, it used to be real bad where you were like a really, really tall man. You're like 6'5", and you're in a college classroom and you like aggressively turn around towards a woman to like talk to him or something, or you walk through the door too quickly. People could consider that as a microaggression, especially if you're like a muscular man, and then you say that you acted in a microaggressive way and that offended me, and I need help. I need a quiet room. Like, it was a point, I think it was Stanford or Harvard, where they had a room full of dogs that you would go to in the middle of the day because you've suffered from so many microaggressions. And obviously I know that there's other ones, like a microaggressive, a perfect one would be if you have an Asian friend and you just ask them, hey, can you help me with my math homework? That's a microaggression because it's a stereotype that Asian people are smarter than white people, and especially in sciences and mathematics. So by you doing that, it's a microaggression towards them. And if you accumulate a certain amount of microaggressions, it becomes offensive and it becomes mentally draining for that culture, for that person, for that Asian person. So what I was saying is, isn't it a microaggression to, it's a microaggression towards microaggressors. If like, let's say I'm saying, hey man, that was a microaggression. Well, you telling me that's a microaggression is a microaggression. So I obviously didn't talk about it, and I just did. But the irony I thought was funny. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe some people find that offensive. I think it's funny, but I think a lot of things are funny that people think aren't not funny. What would happen if the entire world lost their voices? Like, literally lost their voices, like couldn't talk anymore. Like, especially nowadays with like the whole coronavirus thing, we're constantly communicating about that. With the Black Lives Movement, we're constantly protesting about that. We're constantly talking on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, like saying these things. What if like we woke up tomorrow and everybody lost their verbal voice? You could not use your voice anymore. You could only change now through actions and typing, and like you can still use words, but you can't speak upon it. Like, just how the dichotomy would completely shift the way that we view everything in the world would completely change. And I thought that was an interesting thing to just kind of think about, how much of the discourse is just from aggressive vocalizing of emotions instead of the messages are always beautiful, right? I think the messages for everything are beautiful and they make sense, but the way that they're obtained doesn't make sense, aka Seattle, where they shut down blocks and blocks of streets to stand up against the government, did nothing for the government. It proved nothing to nobody. The only thing it did do was ruin that part of Seattle. Those poor businesses are never going to be reopened now. And a lot of the businesses were owned by white people, but also black people. And you just ruined a dream for many people to have a business open, which is counterproductive to what you wanted to accomplish. On top of that, the poor taxpayers' dollars and your money has to go into that part of the city now to help the city. People got shot, and when that area was shut down, there was crime. And police have to eventually close off the area and make it normal again, which if your whole movement is anti-police, well, you just gave the police a job for the day. It's like shit like that, like the way that things are accomplished. What if like voices were ripped out and we couldn't do stuff like that, or we wouldn't be able to organize it as well? And then my last one, which I think is probably the most offensive one, which I think is not good. It's not good to be offensive. Fuck, please don't fall out again. Shit. What up? Okay, there we go. I'm always breaking this thing. My last one was, is it offensive for a straight guy to have, like, speak in a, oh, fuck, I don't know if I should say it. I don't think I'm gonna, like, when a white guy puts on black African-American paint on their face, it's of course it's highly offensive. It's blackface. It's a terrible thing to do, for many reasons. But if a straight guy, you know how like, fuck, no, I'm not, see, this is why I say things and my brain's like, hey, Mike, you shouldn't say that. But then another part of my brain's like, Mike, say it. It's funny. But I'm not a comedian, so I don't know if I should say it because I don't think I can articulate it the right way. But what if like a bunch of straight guys started speaking in that typical homosexual, gay vocal tone? Like, there's no point behind that, but it just kind of popped in my head, and I just kind of wrote it down. I'm sorry if I didn't mean to offend people, but it just kind of popped in my head. Fuck, that's a good way to get in trouble. That's a good way to get your podcast canceled. Just act like a fucking idiot like me. Anyways, but yeah, so this has been an episode of the Michael Live Show where we have spoke about nothing. Was really dumb a lot of the times, but I think I did articulate some things. I was just reading off podcast ideas, and that was some of the podcast ideas. And obviously I know all of them are incomplete. Everything I say here is so jumpy and spontaneous that everything I say is always incomplete. And I think that's a bad thing, but I also think it's a good thing. And I think that's what provides entertainment. And it's really how my mind works. What have I been, let's just finish off with what I have been reading lately. I've been reading the Tom O'Neill book, which was heavily promoted on the Joe Rogan Experience. He was a journalist, and he basically went through the Charles Manson case, and he pulled out shit that was super duper sketchy. And it's related back to like the FBI, to the CIA and whatnot. And it's a really fascinating book. I'm about halfway done with it. But it talks about just the secret ways, history of leaders of the CIA, leaders of the FBI, and the way that they would conspirize with the government, the U.S. government, the international government. If you're talking about like the the Tom Cruise SEAL. Damn it, man. A Tom Cruise movie, American made. The way that we worked with Venezuela. Barry Seal. The way Barry Seal and the U.S. government kind of like worked together, and it was good and bad for both of us. But it's a really fascinating book, and it talks about the trial, the people who ran the trials, their sketchiness history. But that's kind of what I've been reading lately. I'm going to get back into finance books. Right when I finish this book, there's a few books that my buddy Phil recommended to me, who is he is an awesome guy, and he's recommended me. Every book that he's recommended me are great reads, and I'm going to hopefully continue with the stocks, and it's something that I'm really enjoying. I'm enjoying just looking at them every day and seeing what's going on. But yeah, guys, I have to go to use the toilet right now. I really had to go to the bathroom. I also got a text messages that one of my dogs threw up, which is awesome. And then she ate her throw up. Oh, one thing I did want to say. I saw this video yesterday on Nature is Metal, which is an Instagram page of just like nature. And I saw this fucked up video, and it made me like almost like emotional, because like horses are like domesticated in our eyes. Like they're very much like a human pet, like the same way a dog is and like a cat is, more like a dog. But even like, so horses are like farm animals. Like you care for horses, you like horses. They're part of human history. They allowed us to conquer things. They're cool. They're working animals. People love them. People care about them. It seems like they love us and they pay attention to us, unlike like some predators like look at us like they just want to eat us. But I saw this fucked up video of a male horse following a female horse they had a baby that was like in front of the female, and the female was like kicking the male horse, like trying to get him away, and he had his fucking dick out and he just got on top of the horse, and you can see the female's like struggling, like trying to kick him away, and he just rapes her like right in the middle of I mean I think it is rape, like from a Homo sapiens viewpoint. Like if I'm looking at it, that's rape, don't do that. But from like an animal kingdom standpoint, it's like not like that. It's just, I mean, I guess it is definition wise. Like clearly she didn't want it. I don't think she wanted it, maybe, but who knows. I don't think he had consent from the female horse. But it was just crazy. It made me go like, oh, I can't really watch this. But if it was like a bear or if it was like a fox, I wouldn't give a fuck. But it was like I gave like this horse like a level of consciousness that was like a human, and it made me go like, oh, that was cringeworthy. But I don't know why I share that with you guys, but I'm about to shit myself. I gotta go. I hope you guys enjoyed the Michael Lab show. That was episode 103. I'll catch you guys next week with 104 on July 13th through the 12th. Thank you guys so much for listening. Peace out. Catch you guys later. See ya.